My name is Louise Williams, and at 67 years old, I thought I knew my daughter Amanda better than anyone. After 3 months of painful silence following our Christmas argument, her text message appeared casual. "Dinner tonight at Bellini's. My treat, Mom." My heart leapt at the chance to reconcile to see my grandchildren again. I spent hours getting ready, rehearsing what to say. But when the waiter locked that private dining room door behind us, the click echoed like a gavel. One look at the strange gathering waiting inside, and I knew this was no reconciliation. Before I tell you what happened behind that locked door, let me know where you are watching from and hit that subscribe button. You will want to hear how I turned the tables when I realized what was really happening. I had just settled into retirement after 40 years of teaching 3rd grade at Sacramento Elementary. The transition from shaping young minds to suddenly having empty days stretched before me was jarring enough. Add to that the still raw grief of losing Frank, my husband of 42 years, to heart failure 3 years ago, and life felt precarious. Frank had been my rock, my compass. The solid, dependable man who could fix anything from leaky faucets to broken hearts with patient hands and thoughtful words. Amanda is our only child. At 38, she has built what appears from the outside to be a picture-perfect life, with her husband Tyler and their children, my precious grandchildren, Sophia and Jackson, 12 and 9. Being their grandmother has been the joy that carried me through Frank's passing. Every week since he died Sunday, dinners at their house had been my anchor, the single, immovable tradition I could count on in a world that felt increasingly untethered. Until everything changed. I can pinpoint when Amanda began to shift, like watching a time-lapse of a flower closing instead of blooming. 7 years ago, when she married Tyler Crawford. Handsome, charismatic Tyler with his investment banking job and country club connections. He swept into her life and subtly began reshaping my confident, independent daughter into someone I sometimes barely recognized. "Mom, Tyler thinks," became the preface to so many of her sentences. "Tyler thinks we should move to the gated community. Tyler thinks I should stop working so much. Tyler thinks the kids need more structure." I kept my concerns to myself, reminding myself that marriage changes, people that compromise is necessary. Frank would squeeze my hand under the dinner table when Tyler would speak over Amanda, silently communicating that we needed to respect their relationship even if we had our private doubts. When Frank died, Tyler seemed almost relieved to have one less witness to his subtle manipulations. The real trouble began last year when Amanda inherited $80,000 from her godmother, my lifelong friend Beth. Tyler immediately had plans for it, convincing Amanda to invest in a restaurant venture with one of his college friends. I made the mistake of expressing concern. "Honey, maybe keep that money aside for the kids' college fund," I suggested one Sunday while Tyler was watching football in the other room. "Restaurant startups are risky, especially in this economy." Amanda bristled in a way she never would have before. "Tyler knows what he is doing, Mom. He has an MBA. Besides, this is our chance to create generational wealth." Generational wealth. That phrase was pure Tyler, not my practical daughter who once tracked every dollar in her checking account with meticulous precision. I backed off, but the damage was done. Sunday dinners became increasingly tense. Tyler would make subtle digs about older generations not understanding modern investment opportunities. Amanda would change the subject whenever money came up. Then came the Christmas incident that led to our estrangement. The family had gathered at their house, and I was helping in the kitchen when I overheard Tyler and his home office door ajar talking on the phone. "Yeah, she does not even wear the pieces anymore. Family heirlooms just sitting in a safe deposit box. Amanda will not even notice they are gone until we have turned them into something that actually generates return. I am thinking 50 grand minimum." He was talking about selling the jewelry Frank had inherited from his mother and grandmother, pieces meant to be passed down to Sophia someday. Pieces that Amanda had always treasured as connections to family history, not for their monetary value. I confronted her privately that evening, after the presents were opened and the kids were playing with their new toys. "Did you know Tyler is planning to sell your grandmother Williams' jewelry?" I asked gently. Her face went from confused to defensive in seconds. "He mentioned we might want to liquidate some assets." "Those are not assets, Amanda. Those are family treasures with history and meaning. We need capital for a new opportunity," she said, her voice tight. "What happened to the restaurant investment? To the $80,000 from Beth?" Her eyes darted away. there were complications. "This is really none of your business, Mom." When I pressed further, Tyler appeared as if summoned, placing a possessive hand on Amanda's shoulder. "Everything okay here, ladies?" The evening deteriorated from there. Voices were raised. Amanda accused me of never supporting her choices. Tyler suggested that grief had made me controlling and paranoid. I left in tears, and the silence began. 3 months without seeing my grandchildren. 3 months of calls going to voicemail. 3 months of physical pain from the emotional wound of being cut off from the only family I had left. Then, seemingly out of nowhere, the text message arrived on a Tuesday afternoon. "Dinner tonight at Bellini's. My treat, Mom. Just us. I miss you." The casual tone after such a profound breach struck me as odd. No acknowledgement of the pain, the separation, but hope flared in my chest like a struck match. Maybe she had come to her senses. Maybe she missed me as desperately as I missed her. I texted back immediately, "I would love that. What time?" Her response, 7. Tyler made reservations. Tyler made reservations. 4 words that should have been my first warning. My apartment felt especially empty that afternoon as I prepared for dinner. After Frank died, I had downsized from our family home to a modest 2-bedroom place closer to downtown. The second bedroom was set up for when the grandkids visited with bunk beds and colorful decorations. No child had slept there in 3 months. The sheets were still crisp, the stuffed animals perfectly arranged waiting. My daily routine had become painfully predictable since the estrangement. Morning coffee on the small balcony reading books I could not focus on. Volunteer shifts at the community library twice a week. Long walks in the park where I would watch other grandparents with their grandchildren, trying not to let envy poison my heart. Evenings with television shows I barely registered just to fill the silence Frank left behind. The prospect of reconciliation with Amanda filled me with nervous energy. I spent an hour practicing what to say in the bathroom mirror. Should I bring up the Christmas argument? Pretend it never happened? Find a middle ground? I decided to follow her lead, to prioritize healing over being right. "Just listen more than you speak," I told my reflection. "Remember what matters most." I chose my outfit with extraordinary care, settling on a cornflower blue dress that Frank always said brought out my eyes. I still heard his compliments in my head sometimes, his voice so clear it felt like he was standing behind me. "You look beautiful, Lou," our private nickname never used by anyone else. While searching for my pearl earrings, I found myself opening the drawer where I kept old family photos. There was Amanda, at 5, missing her front teeth, grinning wildly on her first bicycle. Amanda at 12, gangly and serious at her first piano recital. Amanda in her college graduation cap, arms thrown around Frank and me, the future bright and limitless before her. I remembered our special mother-daughter trips we took every summer while she was in high school. Just the 2 of us exploring a new city for a long weekend. Chicago, Boston, San Francisco. Hours of conversation over coffee shop tables and museum benches. The Amanda from those trips seemed so distant from the woman she had become. As I applied my makeup, I debated internally about how to approach the evening. Should I pretend everything was fine to keep the peace? Or should I gently but firmly address the issues between us? I decided to read the situation when I arrived, to be flexible but not a doormat. Frank always said I had good instincts about people. I needed to trust those instincts tonight. Hope and suspicion battled within me as I grabbed my purse and keys. Why Bellini's? It was an expensive Italian restaurant on the other side of town, not somewhere Amanda and I had ever gone together. Our usual spots were casual cafes or family restaurants where we could linger for hours. Bellini's was known for business dinners and special occasions. And why a last-minute invitation on a Tuesday? The 20-minute drive gave me more time to question everything. I almost turned around twice, fear competing with longing. The parking lot was half full when I arrived, and I immediately spotted Tyler's black BMW near the entrance. My stomach tightened. The text had implied it would be just Amanda and me. Finding a spot near the back, I checked my appearance one last time in the rearview mirror and took several deep breaths. Just as I was about to exit my car, my phone chimed with a text from my friend Harriet, a retired family court judge and one of the few friends who had known both Frank and me since college. "How are you holding up? Want to grab lunch tomorrow?" I quickly responded, "On my way to dinner with Amanda." First time seeing her since Christmas. Wish me luck. Her response was immediate. Proceed with caution. Sudden reconciliations can have strings attached. Call me after. Harriet had always been the pragmatic one in our friendship, seeing angles others missed. Her warning increased my unease, but I was already here. I had to see this through. The hostess greeted me with a smile that did not quite reach her eyes. When I mentioned the reservation under Crawford, a flicker of something like recognition crossed her face. Ah, yes, the private dining room. Your party is already seated. Please follow me. Private dining room. This was getting stranger by the minute. She led me not through the main restaurant with its warm lighting and chattering diners, but through a side corridor past the bustling kitchen. We stopped at a heavy wooden door at the end of a hallway. Right through here, Mrs. Williams, she said, opening the door for me. I stepped through my purse, clutched tightly against my side, like armor unsure what awaited me on the other side. Amanda rose from her seat as I entered, her smile, bright but her eyes uncertain. She wore a black dress I had never seen before, her hair pulled back severely from her face. She looked tired beneath her careful makeup with shadows under her eyes that concerned me. Mom, she said, stepping forward for a hug that felt rehearsed, too light and quick to be genuine. Thanks for coming. Of course, I replied, searching her face for clues. It is good to see you, sweetheart. Tyler appeared at her side, his tall frame imposing in his tailored suit. His handshake was firm, his smile broad beneath cold eyes. Louise, so great to see you. We have missed having you around. His voice boomed with enthusiasm that rang false in my ears. Tyler had never been particularly warm toward me, even in the best of times. I glanced around the room, taking in details that immediately set off warning bells. The private dining room was dominated by a large rectangular table set for 8 people, not the intimate dinner for 2 I had expected. The walls were paneled in dark wood, no windows creating the feeling of being boxed in. A small side door opposite the main entrance was closed. I thought it would be just us, I said to Amanda, unable to keep the question from my voice. Oh, she looked to Tyler briefly before responding. I thought it would be nice to have dinner as a family first. We have a lot to catch up on. Family dinner, but no sign of Sophia or Jackson. Before I could ask about my grandchildren, a waiter entered the room. He was young, maybe in his 20s, with kind eyes and a name tag that read Miguel. Good evening. My name is Miguel, and I will be taking care of you tonight. Can I start you with something to drink? His eyes darted between us, and I sensed a slight discomfort in his demeanor. Tyler immediately took charge. Bring us the Veuve Clicquot. We are celebrating tonight. Celebrating what I wondered, but kept the question to myself. How are the kids, I asked, as Miguel left to fetch the champagne. I have missed them terribly. They are great, Amanda replied, her voice overly bright. Sophia made honor roll again, and Jackson joined a soccer league. I was hoping to see them tonight, I said carefully. School night, Tyler interjected smoothly. They need their routine. The conversation limped along with painful small talk. Amanda mentioned a new project at her graphic design job but provided no details when I asked questions. Tyler checked his watch repeatedly. I noticed Amanda glancing nervously at her phone on the table, then toward the door as if waiting for something or someone. While Tyler was describing a recent golf game in excruciating detail, I adjusted the breadbasket between us and spotted something unusual underneath it. A small black device with a tiny red light. It looked like a recording device. My blood ran cold, but I maintained my composure, shifting the basket back into place. Miguel returned with champagne and took our dinner orders. Tyler selected for both himself and Amanda without consulting her, then looked at me expectantly. Just the Caesar salad for me, I said, my appetite vanishing as my unease grew. I had a late lunch. As Miguel poured the champagne, I noticed his eyes lingering on me with what seemed like concern. He left again, and an awkward silence fell over the table. So, I began, determined to address the tension. I think we should talk about Christmas. Amanda flinched visibly, and Tyler cleared his throat. Actually, Louise, we have some other matters to discuss tonight. But first, let us enjoy the champagne. To family, he raised his glass. I lifted mine without drinking. Amanda took a large swallow of hers, nearly emptying the flute. Every few minutes, Miguel would appear ostensibly to check on us, but each time he would glance at the door and ask, "Has the rest of your party arrived yet?" Each time Tyler would reply, "They should be here any minute." The first course arrived, a plate of calamari I had not ordered. I picked at it while trying to make sense of the strange evening. Amanda seemed increasingly anxious, checking her phone repeatedly. When it finally buzzed with a text message, her shoulders sagged with visible relief. "They are here," she said to Tyler, who nodded and stood up, straightening his tie. Miguel appeared again, this time with a different energy. "The rest of your party has arrived, sir. Shall I show them in?" Tyler nodded curtly. "And Miguel, please lock the main door behind you. We need privacy for this family discussion." The young waiter hesitated, glancing at me with an unreadable expression before doing as instructed. The sound of the lock engaging sent a chill through me. I suddenly felt trapped, my instincts screaming that something was very wrong. "Amanda," I said quietly, "what is really happening here?" Before she could answer, the side door opened, and 5 people filed into the room. My heart began to pound against my ribs as I recognized each one. The 5 newcomers arranged themselves around the table, taking the empty seats that had been waiting for them all along. I recognized each face, and with each recognition my sense of betrayal deepened. Dr. Powell, Amanda's therapist. A thin woman with a permanent frown whom I had met only once at a Christmas party years ago. She nodded to me with clinical detachment. Tyler's parents, Gerald and Vivian Crawford, dressed expensively as always. They had never approved of Amanda not taking their son's last name when they married. They barely acknowledged my presence. Mr. Henderson, the family lawyer who had handled Frank's will, carrying a leather portfolio that he placed carefully on the table. And finally, most painfully, Janice Miller, Amanda's best friend since college, and my unofficial second daughter for nearly 20 years. She could not meet my eyes. Tyler remained standing, assuming a position at the head of the table like a corporate executive about to begin a presentation. The champagne celebration facade had vanished, replaced by serious, concerned expressions all around. "Mom," Amanda began, her voice shaking slightly, "we have asked you here because we are all worried about you." I sat very still, processing what was happening. This was not a reconciliation dinner. This was an ambush planned and orchestrated down to the locked door. Louise, Tyler took over smoothly. "Since Frank passed away, we have all noticed concerning changes in your behavior and decision-making, particularly regarding financial matters." My mouth went dry. "What are you talking about?" Tyler continued as if I had not spoken. "Amanda and I, along with the support of these trusted family, friends, and professionals, believe it is time to discuss implementing some protections for you and your assets." Mr. Henderson slid papers from his portfolio, arranging them neatly before him. "We have drawn up guardianship papers that would allow Amanda and Tyler to make financial and potentially medical decisions on your behalf when necessary." The words hit me like physical blows. Guardianship. As if I were incompetent, as if I could not care for myself. "This is ridiculous," I said, my voice remarkably steady despite my racing heart. "I am perfectly capable of managing my own affairs." Amanda reached for my hand across the table, tears welling in her eyes. "Mom, this is for your own good. We are worried about you living alone, making impulsive decisions. You have not been the same since Dad died." "Of course, I have not been the same," I replied. "I lost my husband of 42 years. Grief changes you. That does not mean I am incompetent." Dr. Powell spoke next, her voice measured and professional. "Mrs. Williams, Amanda has shared with me several incidents that indicate cognitive and emotional decline consistent with complicated grief, possibly exacerbated by early dementia." "You have never even examined me," I pointed out, anger beginning to replace shock. "And doctor-patient confidentiality means Amanda should not be sharing details of her therapy with you regarding me." The therapist continued undeterred. "Family concerns often require collaborative approaches. Your resistance to assistance is itself noteworthy." Gerald and Vivian Crawford exchanged knowing glances. Louise Gerald said with faux sympathy, "We have noticed things too. Last Thanksgiving you put salt in the coffee instead of sugar. You got lost driving to our house for the Super Bowl party, a route you have driven dozens of times." I was trying a new route because of construction, I corrected, and anyone can mix up salt and sugar containers when they are identical. Vivian shook her head sadly. You left the stove on when you visited in February. If Tyler had not noticed, there could have been a fire. I remembered that day. I had been making tea, and Tyler had deliberately distracted me with a question about Frank's life insurance policy. Janice finally spoke her betrayal, perhaps the most painful. Lou, you forgot my birthday last month. In 20 years you have never forgotten. And when I came over last week, there were 3 days of newspapers unopened on your doorstep. Your plants were dying. It is not like you to neglect things. I had not forgotten her birthday. I had sent a card that apparently never arrived, and the newspapers had piled up because I had been visiting my sister in Oregon, a trip I had mentioned to Janice. Mr. Henderson cleared his throat. Mrs. Williams, these papers would simply create a safety net. You could continue your normal activities, but Amanda and Tyler would have legal authority to intervene if necessary, particularly regarding large financial decisions. Like selling my house, accessing my accounts, I asked, connecting the dots. Only if necessary, he replied smoothly. And if I refuse to sign? His expression hardened slightly. Then we may need to pursue this through family court, which would become a matter of public record. I am sure none of us wants that embarrassment for you. The threat was thinly veiled. Sign voluntarily or be declared incompetent by a judge. Amanda was openly crying now. Mom, please. We have been planning this for months because we love you. After what happened at Christmas, we realized how much you need help. Months. While I had been grieving our estrangement, they had been plotting this takeover of my life. The realization was staggering. What exactly happened at Christmas that made you think I needed to have my autonomy stripped away? I asked, looking directly at my daughter. Tyler interjected before she could answer. You became irrationally angry about family heirlooms that Amanda has every right to liquidate as she sees fit. You made accusations about me that were completely unfounded. You stormed out in an emotional state and drove home alone at night, which was dangerous. I turned back to Amanda. Is that how you remember it? Her eyes darted to Tyler, then back to me. You were very upset. Because I overheard your husband planning to sell your grandmother's jewelry without your knowledge, I said clearly. Jewelry meant to be passed down to Sophia. Tyler's face flushed with anger. That is exactly the kind of paranoid accusation I am talking about. You are misconstruing a normal financial discussion. Dr. Powell made a note on her pad. Paranoid ideation is another concerning symptom. I felt as if I had stepped into a nightmare where everything I said would be twisted against me. They had created a perfect trap where defending myself would only serve as evidence of my supposed instability. I would like to see these papers, I said, reaching for the documents in front of Mr. Henderson. He hesitated, then passed them over. As I scanned the legal language, my stomach turned. The guardianship was comprehensive, giving Amanda and Tyler complete control over my finances, property, and even my medical decisions. If signed, I would essentially become a ward of my own daughter and the son-in-law I did not trust. There is absolutely nothing wrong with my mental faculties, I said, firmly placing the papers back on the table. I recently had a complete physical and cognitive assessment as part of my retirement insurance package. My doctor found nothing concerning. We have spoken with Dr. Martinez, Tyler said smoothly. He agrees there is cause for concern. This was an outright lie. Dr. Martinez had been my physician for 15 years and had given me a clean bill of health just last month. Then you will not mind if I call him right now, I challenged, reaching for my phone. Tyler's hand shot out, covering mine. That is not necessary. We have his statement already. As I pulled my hand away from his, I suddenly understood the true motivation behind this elaborate setup. This was never about my well-being. This was about my money, the life insurance from Frank, the equity in my condo, my retirement accounts. Tyler had already burned through Amanda's inheritance, and now he had set his sights on my assets. How much debt are you in, Tyler? I asked quietly. His expression flickered with surprise before he recovered. This is not about me. This is about keeping you safe. The restaurant venture failed, did not it? And whatever came next. And now you need my money to cover the losses. Amanda gasped. Mom, that is a terrible thing to say. Is it wrong? I challenged. The lawyer intervened. Mrs. Williams, these accusations demonstrate exactly the kind of paranoid thinking we are concerned about. Now, if you will just sign these papers, we can all go home and put this unpleasantness behind us. Actually, Tyler added, with chilling casualty, we have already packed some essentials from your condo. You will be staying with us for a while until we can arrange a more suitable living situation. They had been in my home, without my knowledge, packing my things, planning to move me out, likely to sell my condo and access the equity. The violation was profound. I looked at my daughter, searching for any sign of the independent, ethical woman I had raised. Amanda, is this really what you want, to take away your mother's freedom and dignity? Her lip trembled, but Tyler placed his hand over hers and she straightened her shoulders. We just want what is best for you, Mom. You will see that eventually. The initial shock was wearing off, replaced by a simmering anger that rose from deep within me. These people, some I had known for decades, had conspired behind my back to declare me incompetent for their own purposes. My own daughter was participating in this betrayal. How long have you been planning this? I asked, my voice low but steady. We have been concerned for months, Amanda replied, not quite answering the question. Since around the time the restaurant investment failed, I pressed. Tyler slammed his hand on the table, making the glasses jump. This has nothing to do with our investments. This is about your increasingly erratic behavior. Like what exactly? I challenged. Give me specific examples of cognitive decline, not just normal senior moments that happen to everyone regardless of age. Dr. Powell consulted her notes. Amanda has reported that you have become suspicious of financial institutions preferring to keep cash at home. I took out $800 when my credit card company had a data breach, I clarified. That is prudence, not paranoia. You have become socially isolated, Janice added. I still volunteer twice weekly at the library, attend my book club, and have lunch with friends regularly. My social calendar is in my phone if you would like to check. You called Amanda at 3 in the morning last month, confused about where Frank was, Tyler said triumphantly. This cut deep. It was the anniversary of his death. I had a dream he was still alive. I woke up disoriented and reached for the phone. That is grief, not dementia. For each accusation, I had a reasonable explanation, but I could see they had already made up their minds. Nothing I said would change their predetermined conclusion. Amanda shifted uncomfortably. Mom, we found expired food in your refrigerator when we checked your condo. You mean when you broke into my home without my knowledge? I retorted. We have a key for emergencies, Tyler said dismissively. A welfare check without my consent is not an emergency, it is an invasion. Mr. Henderson sighed dramatically. Mrs. Williams, your combative attitude is making this more difficult than it needs to be. I am not being combative. I am defending myself against accusations that could result in losing my independence. The conversation continued in this vein, with each of them taking turns, presenting evidence of my supposed decline and me refuting each point. It was exhausting and infuriating in equal measure. As the tension in the room escalated, I noticed Tyler becoming increasingly agitated by my refusal to acquiesce. His mask of concern was slipping, revealing glimpses of the anger and frustration beneath. You need to understand, he said, his voice rising, that we are trying to help you, but you are fighting us every step of the way. This stubbornness is exactly why we need legal authority. Refusing to surrender my rights is not stubbornness, I replied evenly. It is self-preservation. Amanda reached across the table, her eyes pleading. Mom, remember when you helped Grandma Eleanor move to assisted living? She fought it too, but it was the right decision. Sometimes our parents cannot see what is best for them. Your grandmother had suffered 2 strokes and could no longer live safely alone, I reminded her. I am in perfect health, as my recent medical records would show. Medical records can be misleading, Dr. Powell interjected. Many cognitive issues do not show up on standard tests. I turned to her, incredulous. So your secondhand observations outweigh actual medical examinations? Professional clinical judgment is an important factor, she replied stiffly. I changed tactics, addressing Amanda directly and ignoring the others. Sweetheart, do you remember our trip to San Francisco for your 16th birthday? Just the 2 of us for 3 days. You wanted to see Alcatraz and eat sourdough bread at every meal. A small, genuine smile flickered across her face. You let me get my nose pierced, and Dad was so mad when we got home. I convinced him it was better than the tattoo you really wanted. I continued, watching her expression soften with the memory. Mom, she began, but Tyler cut her off. This emotional manipulation is inappropriate, he snapped. Amanda, stay focused. The warmth in her eyes dimmed, replaced by the guarded look I had grown to hate. Tyler's control over her was painfully obvious, his hand on her arm both possessive and restraining. I changed approaches again. May I see this statement from Dr. Martinez you mentioned? Tyler and Mr. Henderson exchanged glances. It is part of the legal filing, the lawyer hedged. Which means it should be in that portfolio of papers, I pointed out. I would like to see it now, please. Reluctantly, Mr. Henderson slid a document across the table. I picked it up and immediately noticed something wrong. The signature did not match Dr. Martinez's distinctive scrawl that I had seen on countless prescriptions and medical forms over 15 years. Moreover, the letterhead was slightly off, missing the medical group's logo. This is not Dr. Martinez's signature, I said flatly. You are not a handwriting expert, Tyler dismissed. I do not need to be. I have a signed birthday card from him in my purse right now. I reached for my bag, but Tyler's father intercepted it. There is no need for theatrics, Louise. The violation of having my personal property grabbed from me was the final straw. Give me my purse back immediately, I demanded, my voice sharp with authority honed by decades of classroom management. Surprised by my tone, Gerald handed it back. I extracted the card Dr. Martinez had given me with my last checkup, congratulating me on my retirement. I placed it beside the forged letter. The signatures were noticeably different. Would you like to explain this discrepancy? I asked Mr. Henderson directly. For the first time, the lawyer looked uncomfortable. Different situations can lead to variations in signature. Or forgery, I countered, which is a criminal offense. A heavy silence fell over the room. I had caught them in a lie, and they knew it. But rather than backing down, Tyler doubled down. Your paranoid accusations are exactly why we need to do this, he said, his voice cold. Seeing conspiracy everywhere, accusing respected professionals of forgery. You are not well, Louise. I looked around the table at these people who claimed to care about my well-being while plotting to strip me of my autonomy. At my daughter torn between loyalty to her husband and her instinctive knowledge that what they were doing was wrong. You know what I think, I said quietly. I think the restaurant failed. I think you are in serious debt, Tyler. I think you have been systematically isolating Amanda from anyone who might question your decisions. And now you need money, my money, to fix the financial mess you have created. Tyler's face contorted with rage. You have always undermined me with Amanda, always judged me, never thought I was good enough for your precious daughter. Well, she chose me, Louise. She chose me over you at Christmas, and she is choosing me now. The naked hostility in his voice shocked everyone at the table. Amanda looked stricken. Tyler, she whispered, that is not what this is about. But the damage was done. His outburst had revealed the true motivation behind this elaborate setup, and I could see the first flickers of doubt in Amanda's eyes. In that moment of tension, I caught a glimpse of Miguel the waiter peering through the small window in the main door, his expression concerned. Our eyes met briefly, and he gave a small nod before disappearing. Something about that nod gave me a renewed sense of determination. I thought of Frank, what he would do in this situation. He would stay calm, assess his options, and find a way out. I could almost hear his voice. You have got this, Lou. Do not let them see you sweat. I took a deep breath and squared my shoulders, preparing for the next phase of this battle for my freedom and dignity. I need to use the restroom, I announced, standing up before anyone could object. Tyler frowned. Mr. Henderson needs to get home. We should finish this now. Unless you plan to deny me bathroom privileges as part of your guardianship, I am going to the restroom, I replied firmly. I will be back in 5 minutes. Amanda nodded. The restrooms are just down the hall, Mom. I walked to the door, half expecting Tyler to block my path, but he merely checked his watch with visible annoyance. Miguel was waiting outside and quietly directed me to the ladies' room, his eyes communicating silent support. Once inside the privacy of the bathroom stall, I pulled out my phone with trembling hands and called Harriet. When she did not answer, I sent a text message. At Bellini's restaurant, ambush intervention. Tyler and Amanda trying to get me to sign guardianship papers. Lawyer present. Need help. Evidence of document forgery. I splashed cold water on my face and looked at myself in the mirror. You can handle this, I whispered to my reflection. Frank's voice seemed to answer in my mind, remember who you are, Lou. You taught third graders for 40 years. You can certainly handle a room full of bullies. With renewed resolve, I returned to the private dining room. As I re-entered, I noticed Miguel slipping me a folded napkin with my water glass. I palmed it discreetly. Now, Mr. Henderson said, as I sat down, shall we proceed with the signatures? Before we continue, I said calmly, placing my phone on the table, I would like to record this conversation for my records. Tyler immediately objected. That is not necessary, and probably not legal, without everyone's consent. Interesting that you are suddenly concerned about consent, I observed. Without waiting for permission, I pressed record. Today is Tuesday, March 10th. Present at Bellini's restaurant are myself, Louise Williams, my daughter Amanda Crawford, her husband Tyler Crawford. Turn that off, Tyler demanded, reaching for my phone. I pulled it back. If this guardianship discussion is above board and in my best interest, why are you afraid to have it recorded? It is a privacy issue, Mr. Henderson interjected. Privacy for whom? Not for me, certainly, since you have all been discussing my private medical and financial information without my consent. This gave them pause. I pressed my advantage, unfolding the napkin. Miguel had slipped me under the table. On it was written, called police, 5 minutes. Stall. Relief flooded through me, but I kept my expression neutral. I needed to keep them talking for just a few more minutes. Let us address each of your concerns specifically, I suggested. You mentioned my financial decisions worry you. I have maintained the same investment portfolio Frank and I established 15 years ago with minor adjustments recommended by our financial advisor. My bills are paid automatically. My credit score is over 800. What specifically indicates I cannot manage my finances? Tyler shifted uncomfortably. It is not any one thing. Then it should be easy to name 3 examples, I challenged. When no one spoke, I continued. You claim I am isolated socially. I volunteer Tuesdays and Thursdays at the library. I attend weekly book club at Mary Peterson's house. I have lunch every Monday with Harriet Jenkins. I took a watercolor class at the community center last month. I turned to Janice. You know this because I invited you to the student exhibition. Janice had the grace to look ashamed. As for my home, I pressed on. I have a cleaning service that comes every 2 weeks. My refrigerator was nearly empty because I had just returned from visiting my sister in Oregon. The expired yogurt was 1 day past date. With each point, I could see Amanda's certainty wavering. The narrative Tyler had constructed was unraveling thread by thread. Amanda, I said gently, have I ever given you reason to think I cannot take care of myself? Have I ever put myself or others in danger? Have I ever mismanaged money or made irrational decisions? Before she could answer, Tyler cut in. This is exactly the kind of manipulative behavior we are talking about. I turned to him, my patience finally at an end. Let us be honest about what this is really about, Tyler. Your business ventures have failed repeatedly. The restaurant, the real estate flip in Roseville, the tech startup investment last summer. You have burned through Amanda's inheritance from Beth, and now you need a new source of cash. His face reddened. You do not know what you are talking about. I know that you remortgaged your house 6 months ago. I know that you have been pushing Amanda to sell family heirlooms. I know that you have maxed out 3 credit cards. Amanda stared at me in shock. How do you know that? Because unlike what you all seem to believe, I am perfectly competent. I pay attention. I notice things. Like the collection notices that came to your house addressed to Tyler that you tried to hide when I visited in November. Like the fact that Tyler has been wearing the same 3 suits for the past year despite previously buying new ones every season. I turned to Mr. Henderson. And I wonder if you are aware that attempting to obtain guardianship under false pretenses using forged medical documents could result in disbarment and criminal charges. The lawyer paled visibly. Mom, Amanda began, her voice uncertain. There is something else you should know, I said, looking directly at my daughter. After your father died, he left specific instructions about our assets. The bulk of our money is in an irrevocable trust for Sophia and Jackson's education. I am the trustee, and if anything happens to me, the successor trustee is not you or Tyler, but Harriet Jenkins." Tyler's expression of shock confirmed my suspicion that this had been his target all along. "The trust cannot be broken, borrowed against, or redirected," I continued. "Even if you obtained guardianship over me, you would not be able to access those funds for anything other than the children's education." "You are bluffing," Tyler said, but his voice lacked conviction. "Call Harriet and ask her I suggested." She helped Frank set it up. As if on cue, there was a knock at the door, and Miguel entered, followed by 2 uniformed police officers. "Mrs. Williams," one officer said, "we received a call about a possible elder abuse situation. Are you all right?" "I am now," I replied, standing up. "These individuals have been attempting to coerce me into signing guardianship papers under false pretenses, using forged medical documents." Mr. Henderson quickly gathered his papers. "This is a family matter, officers. A simple misunderstanding." "Then you will not mind explaining it down at the station," the second officer replied. "We take allegations of elder exploitation very seriously." Tyler stood up his charm, returning in full force. "Officers, my mother-in-law has been experiencing cognitive issues. We are simply trying to protect her. I have documentation of a complete cognitive assessment performed last month, showing no impairment I countered retrieving the folded report from my purse. I also have evidence of document forgery." I held up the birthday card alongside the forged letter. The officers took the documents, then asked everyone to remain seated while they sorted things out. They took me aside to get my statement, then spoke privately with Amanda, who looked increasingly distressed. Tyler's facade had completely crumbled. He alternated between attempts to charm the officers and thinly veiled threats about lawsuits and police harassment. His parents sat in stony silence while Janice appeared on the verge of tears. Dr. Powell and Mr. Henderson spoke in hushed tones, distancing themselves from the situation. After nearly 30 minutes of questioning, one officer approached me. "Mrs. Williams, would you like to press charges for the forged document?" I looked at Amanda's devastated face and made a decision. Not at this time, but I would like it noted in the report that this occurred in case I need to pursue it later. The officer nodded understanding. "You are free to go. Would you like an escort home?" "Yes, please," I said, gathering my purse. As I prepared to leave, Amanda broke away from Tyler and approached me. "Mom," she whispered, tears streaming down her face. "I did not know about the forged letter. I swear." I looked into my daughter's eyes, seeing both the woman she had become and the little girl she once was. "We will talk when you are ready," without Tyler present. She nodded, a small gesture of independence that gave me hope. Tyler made one last attempt to salvage the situation. "Louise, you are making a serious mistake. Amanda is just trying to help you." I turned to him, my voice steady. "No, Tyler. The mistake was thinking I would surrender my independence without a fight. The mistake was underestimating me because of my age. The mistake was trying to use my daughter against me." With that, I walked out of the private dining room with my head held high, leaving behind the remnants of their failed scheme. On my way out, I stopped to thank Miguel for his help. He smiled shyly. "My grandmother went through something similar last year. I recognized what was happening." I pressed a generous tip into his hand. "You made a difference today. Thank you." The police officer escorted me to my car, and I drove home alone, shaking with the aftermath of adrenaline, grief, and relief mingled together. The drive home from Bellini's that night felt endless. My hands trembled on the steering wheel, and several times I had to pull over to collect myself. The police officer had offered to have someone drive me, but I needed the solitude to process what had happened. My own daughter had participated in a plot to declare me incompetent for financial gain. The betrayal cut deeper than any pain I had experienced since losing Frank. That first night alone in my apartment was the hardest. I moved from room to room, unable to settle, imagining Tyler and Amanda in my space without permission, evaluating my belongings, judging my competence based on the arrangement of my spice rack or the organization of my closet. I felt violated in a way I could not articulate. I called Harriet first thing the next morning. She arrived within the hour, bringing coffee and her no-nonsense approach to crisis. "We need to take legal precautions," she said after hearing the full story. "Change your locks immediately. Document everything that happened. Consider a restraining order against Tyler at minimum." "And Amanda?" I asked, my voice breaking. Harriet's expression softened. "Give her time. She has been under his influence for years. This may be the wake-up call she needs." The next weeks passed in a blur of practical actions and emotional processing. I changed the locks on my condo and installed a security system. I met with my actual lawyer to ensure all my legal documents were in order and to document what had occurred at Bellini's. I transferred my medical records to a new doctor, though it broke my heart to leave Dr. Martinez after so many years. I could not risk Tyler attempting to access my information again. I cycled through grief, rage, and profound sadness. Some days I could barely get out of bed, the weight of Amanda's betrayal too heavy to bear. Other days, anger fueled me, pushing me to take decisive action to protect myself. Harriet was my rock, checking in daily, sometimes just sitting with me in companionable silence when words failed. My sister flew in from Oregon for a week, filling my kitchen with cooking smells and my living room with laughter, reminding me that I still had family I could trust. 3 weeks after the Bellini's incident, Amanda called. Her voice was small on the phone, uncertain. "Mom, can we talk? Just us." We met at a public cafe of my choosing. She arrived alone, without the designer clothes and perfect makeup she typically wore. She looked younger somehow, more like the daughter I remembered. "Tyler and I are separating," she said, after the initial awkward greetings. "I am staying with Janice for now." I nodded, waiting for her to continue. "I did not know about the forged letter," she said, her eyes pleading for belief. "I swear I did not know he would go that far. He told me you were becoming forgetful, that you needed help but were too proud to ask. He had me looking for signs, interpreting everything through that lens. And the trust. Was that his target all along?" She nodded miserably. "He has been in financial trouble for years. Each new investment was going to be the one that fixed everything. The restaurant failed 6 months ago. We are nearly bankrupt. It became disparity." "Why did not you come to me?" I asked the question that had haunted me for weeks. Tears filled her eyes. "He convinced me you would judge him, judge us, that you had never approved of him, that asking for help would prove you right about him. Then it spiraled out of control." We talked for hours, peeling back layers of manipulation and misunderstanding. Amanda had been emotionally abused for years without recognizing it, her perceptions shaped by Tyler's constant undermining her connections to supportive friends and family, systematically severed. "I do not expect you to forgive me right away," she said as we prepared to leave, "but I hope someday we can rebuild what we had." I took her hand across the table. "We start today, one conversation at a time." The road to healing was neither straight nor easy. Amanda filed for divorce the following month, unleashing Tyler's full rage. He spread vicious rumors about both of us, attempted to turn friends against her, even tried to use the children as leverage. But with each challenge, Amanda grew stronger, rediscovering the independent woman she had once been. Rebuilding trust between us took time and intentional effort. We agreed to weekly therapy sessions with a new counselor, one with experience in family reconciliation. We established clear boundaries and expectations. We spoke honestly about painful subjects instead of avoiding them. 6 months after the ambush dinner, we started a new Sunday tradition: brunch at my condo with Sophia and Jackson, just the 4 of us. The first few times were awkward, the children confused by the family changes. But gradually, a new normal emerged. Sophia would help me bake cinnamon rolls from scratch. Jackson would challenge me to increasingly competitive games of checkers. One Sunday, as the kids played a board game in the living room, Amanda and I sat on my small balcony with coffee. "Do you think you will ever truly forgive me?" she asked quietly. I considered the question carefully. I already have. Forgiveness does not mean forgetting or pretending it never happened. It means choosing to move forward without letting the hurt define our relationship. "How did you find that strength?" "I'm not sure I could have been so gracious if our positions were reversed." I smiled, thinking of Frank. "When you have lived as long as I have, you learn that holding on to anger only hurts yourself. Besides, standing up for myself that night at Bellini's taught me something important." "What is that?" "That protecting your dignity and autonomy is not selfish. It is necessary. For too long after your father died, I defined myself as a widow, a grandmother, a retiree. I forgot that I am still Louise Williams, a whole person with the right to make my own choices, even imperfect ones. Amanda nodded thoughtfully. You know, I started volunteering at the senior center last month. There are so many elderly people being taken advantage of by family members or scammers. I want to help prevent what almost happened to you from happening to others. Pride swelled in my chest. From our painful experience, something positive had emerged. Amanda was reclaiming her own strength and using it to help others. That day marked a turning point in our healing journey. We would never return to exactly what we had before, but perhaps this new relationship built on honest communication and mutual respect was stronger for having been broken and carefully mended. As for me, I found an unexpected silver lining in the entire ordeal. Standing up for myself at Bellini's reawakened a confidence I had not felt since my teaching days. I began speaking at community centers about elder rights and financial protection. I volunteered with a local advocacy group that helped seniors navigate complex legal systems. I even started a support group for grandparents estranged from family members. 1 year after that fateful dinner, I sat in my living room, surrounded by Amanda, the grandchildren, Harriet, and other dear friends celebrating my 68th birthday. Looking around at these beloved faces, I realized that the painful experience had taught me the most valuable lesson of my later years, that protecting yourself is sometimes the greatest act of love, both for yourself and for those who truly care about you. The trust and autonomy we grant each other is sacred. When we try to control others, even with good intentions, we damage the very relationships we claim to value. But when we respect each other's dignity and independence, we create space for authentic connection and growth at any age. Have you ever had to stand up for yourself when others thought they knew better? I would love to hear your stories in the comments below. And if this story resonated with you, please hit that subscribe button and share with someone who might need to hear this message of empowerment. Remember, it is never too late to reclaim your voice and your power. Thank you for listening, and may you find the courage to honor your own worth, even when it is difficult.